Hi everyone. Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Welcome to the call. Glad to have you on as always. Yeah, I think we should be starting soon. I see David is on the call, and I also hope we'll have a few more people joining us for this session. All right. So whilst we wait, let me ask, is there anyone on the call who is joining us for the first time in one of these live community sessions? Yeah, we really love to kind of get to know, the people in the community. So this will really be a good time to kind of get to know you. So you could just take the floor and introduce yourself. Tell us maybe a few things, just maybe what you're working on, or maybe why you joined the community. While we just wait a few minutes, then we start. So yeah, I'll leave the floor open. If there's anyone who is joining us for the first time and wants to share something. I know, David, this is definitely your first time, but we are going to be hearing from you extensively. So yeah, apart from David, who else? Anybody? Or should I mention names? Since I know the people who've been in our previous meetings, I could actually mention names. So yes, let me just ask you to just make my work easy. Who is going to start? Oh, nobody. That's unfortunate. Uh, Let me see. I see Shalom. Shalom, you're on the call. I'd love to get to know a little about you. Would you mind sharing anything?
Yes, good afternoon. Please, can I be heard?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Okay. So my name is Adebute Shalom. I'm a full stack developer and IT consultant for about 5 years, and I have experience when it comes to developing applications, different framework, React, Node.js, Fast API, also working with Java and C++. And
Okay.
also, I have experience when it comes to AI and machine learning with data science. I did a course with Edreka on machine learning and data science, which was about 7 months. So we also did some series of projects when it comes to cancer detection, um, finding patterns when it comes to image recognition, among other projects. So these are some of
Mm,
my experience I have when it comes to AI. So
mm.
currently, I'm on a master's in digital transformation at Next
No, I'm
Forward.
in the taking number.
So
You know, 0 to 0 to
Uh,
0. Yeah.
my brother who has just joined, your mic is on. Yes, please put it up for us. Let me even do it here so it's easy. Yeah, Shalom. Yeah, sorry, you were saying something. Go ahead.
yeah, thank you. So I'm also enrolled in master's in digital transformation at Next Forward. So currently, I'm also having a course on AI. We've been looking at deep learning. Uh, we've also been looking at natural language processing as well. So these are some of the experience I've gathered so far, and I can really say that AI is a field that we already moved into, not something that we are even moving into. We already moved into. So I think Africa is the region where I would say a bit lagging behind, but We can
Mm.
change that as well. We can change that with our own input and all that. So that's a bit
Awesome.
about me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. From your accent, I can hear some Nigerian accent. So can I ask if you are Nigerian Ghanaian?
Nigerian, but I've been here for quite some time.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that's why I'm saying Nigerian Ghanaian because yeah, you definitely seem to be with us here in Ghana. So no, but I love it actually when we have our brothers from other African countries, with us on the call. The last time we had someone from Kenya. And I know we even have other countries also in the community because even with the work we do in Ghana NLP and even Kaya AI, the models are not only focused on Ghanaian, languages. And as you said, there's a lot of things we share in common when it comes to what needs to be done with regards to AI for the whole of Africa. So I think anything we do here, we really see it as applicable across the board. So I'm sure you'll probably also be thinking about some Nigerian languages and all. And we are always happy to, learn from your own lessons and the kind of things you are discovering as you are looking at, those aspects of the African NLP as well. So yeah, once again, Shalom, thank you for joining and sharing. And with that said, I want to also appreciate all of you who have joined. I see a couple of you who I already know who really have been doing fantastic work for us. I see Gerhard on the call, he's really one of our superstars, helping to push some of the projects you're working on. So, shout out to you all, and then there are others who have not joined yet. And I know that we are recording this session, so we are going to be able to share it later with all our over 500 community members. So, yeah, with that said, let me just give you a brief idea of what we want to do today. You've already seen the agenda, and we want to kind of take you through a project that is really trying to help to make a machine translation outputs better by basically controlling term translations. And I think we'll go more into that. But before we do that, we have as I said in the invite, our friends from Car AI. In case you don't know Car AI, let me just say that Kaya AI is a spin-off from Ghana NLP. So basically, Ghana NLP started as a humble NLP initiative, and the same great people who were behind Ghana NLP, they really decided to take it to the next level and build stuff that can be used across Africa in terms of African text, speech synthesis, text-to-text models, and everything. And I think we are going to see really something fantastic today from them. But just to let you know that Ghana NLP and Kaya AI are affiliated. We are all working together. And the beautiful thing is that the research we do as a community can be used by everyone. Even though Ghana Kaya AI supports Ghana NLP, they are not supporting our work to be beneficial only to Kaya AI, but also to the entire AI space in Africa. So when you see something very good happening in Ghana NLP that you are enjoying, you can also associate that with Kaya AI, and you also I think you can also feel comfortable to always make inputs to Kaya AI as you are going to hear today. If you feel that something is there's something that the folks at KAI can do if you are in this community, this you have a direct line, to basically share. You can share it with me, share it directly with some of the folks from Kai AI who are already in the Ghana NLP community. Just let them know. because the whole idea of something like Kaya AI is to have an African AI built by us for us. So, the community is essentially a way for them to build something which is in line with what people really, really want. And some of you already probably have used the API. You have some free tier that you can already use to get access to all the great models, the speech synthesis and everything for the applications you are developing. So you want to have a look at that, but let's also see, what they have for us for today. So let me just leave it there now that I've given the introduction. And then I want to invite David Nintime. David, apologies if I did not do justice to the name. But let me just leave you to also introduce yourself and to take us through what you have for us today from Kaya AI. Over to you.
Thank you so much, everyone. I'm super glad to be here. My name is David Nintan. I study computer science and engineering, and I've been working on. I started to work with the Kaya AI team back in June, and I've been building the software or like what I would be showcasing to you all today. And it's pretty much going to be like a very, the hope is to have like an intuitive interface to explore what we've been building on at Kaya AI, and then have the opportunity for you guys to interact with as well. So I will share my screen, and then we also like give you access. So that is also like a part of it. But my screen, and I think for this software, some of you might have seen it on our social media or like our social media channels. And the Kaya AI Studio looks like this. You have let's say the home screen or interface to sort of like interact with these like technologies. The first one is translate text, the second one is speech recognition, and the third one is text to speech. I'll take you through what each of them means, and then we also explore some other features like the chat assistant. So for the translate text, I think maybe one thing that all of us may know that like at Ghana NLP and Kaya AI, some of our core technologies had our NLP work, which is more like working with languages. So with the translation of text or translate text feature, you can convert from English to about this is like to about 10 other languages, right? So I speak Tree. I come from a family with a Tree background and Dagari background, but I'm very good at Tree. So I would say I can put something like good morning. And when I send this message, okay, wait, wait, let me do it from here. Yeah, live demos and then they are they are errors. Yeah, but I can send. I'm using like the local version, but I hope to share the live link with you guys after the call. I can send a message like "Good morning," and then I get a response back as "Memao Akwaba." Let me also try something like "How are you doing?" When I send this message, I get Ohun to saying, which is like also like accurate. So I think maybe if you speak any language that is over here, I would like you to put something in the chat or more like a text in the chat. Give me a minute. Yeah, sorry, I had to. There was the background noise. Yeah, so if you're familiar with any of these languages, I would like you to also like maybe send a sentence that you want us to try like live on a call. But what we can also do is that you can copy this text, or let's say you can switch from the local language into English. So I can type something like when I put this message back or what to send, I put it here and then I get how are you doing, right? The text to speech allows you to convert text from these languages. right, into a voice. So if I put over here what to send, right, I can choose between a female voice or a male voice, high or low, and then it generates the speech for us.
What you say?
I hope you can hear it. Let me try sharing with audio. Mm, yes. So
What you say?
yes,
What you say?
when I play the sound, you definitely hear it. One thing we can do is to switch it to a Kwapimchi and then maybe use the male low voice.
What you sing? What you sing?
Yes, so like I think you can notice that it spoke it in a different accent, but if we had like other languages like Ewe or Fante or Ga, it would have also like been able to allow us to sort of like return the voice or like the audio file of what that sentence sounds like. So for the speech recognition, I want to share that last because that one I have to record my voice. And then what that basically does is that if you upload an audio or record a voice, it will translate that or transcribe that into text. So I can test this out. What to say? What to say?
David, I don't know if it's just me, but the sound doesn't seem to be coming. Or maybe it's just me. Anybody confirm if they can hear David?
Yes, I can't also hear.
Okay.
Yeah, the same thing here.
Can anyone hear me now?
Yes, we can hear
Okay.
you.
Okay. I switched my mic, so I hope this one works better. So, the next thing I want to show, maybe I can get to the ASR part again, but the next thing I want to show is the Kaya chat, which is powered by Kaya AI. And it's pretty much like a way for us to interact with large language models in our local language. So I think almost all of us are, or let's say a lot of us might be familiar with um, large language model tools such as like ChatGPT, Claude AI, or even Gemini. So this is more like a way, we are building like a way for us to use like our NLP capabilities to interact with like powerful AI. So you can type to it in like different languages. We support like these languages from here, and I can send a message like I'm just gonna send again what to say, right? And then maybe you can try like different sentences, complexity of sentences later on. But when I send this message, what to say, it will work with the AI, and then we are supposed to like get a response. Maybe yeah, made that was a say what this right? Which I understand tree, so it translates to I am doing well. Thank you for asking. Right. So I can ask you the question like, I mean, if you guys want to try some sentences out, you can also like put in your chat. Let me see. Pame Nuaban Niabani Ama. Okay. I actually just opened the chat, right? And I saw Miss sent a sentence that how many Bani ama. So I can put it here. And I mean, with a large language model, you expect it to sort of like respond, okay, thank okay, it's good. Um it said Yenti Metiasia Kwame Nyabani Ama, which is more like I mean my tree is not like the best, but it's basically saying probably I hear you, I understand that Kwame's sister is Amma, right? And makes sense sent another one. Okay, Dr. Caesar, I'll answer your question right after this. And then I send this message. So Ghana man penny or say ne Nana Akufo-Addo. The question that Mixet asked was who is Ghana's president? And then you can see that he responded is Nana Akufo-Addo. But that's because like right now we have like a different president, but you know how large language models are they are trained on like a set of data in sometimes in the past, or like they have like a cut-off knowledge, right? It is only until you add on search capabilities, right, that is able to like pull from the real world and then synthesize to give you like a more historically or timely accurate answer. So Dr. Caesar Salam is asking, is there a translation layer between this interface and the LLM, or was the LLM trained in Chi fundamentally? Yeah, so like currently we are using like the translation layer, right? Because I think one thing I mentioned before the call, like one of the things that we work on as a team is like the NLP capabilities, right? So hopefully or eventually we'll be training like we can get like it is like my thoughts or my view. It's not like maybe a decision, but it's more like okay, like I think effectively or like eventually you might be able to like train the large language models in their actual languages and then and then and then maybe get a more accurate. But now we are leveraging on like the translation layers or like the kind of technologies we've built before. So like right now, what is happening is the use of like translation API, right? But we even have opportunities to play like the sound, right? Or the audio. So if I play this audio, it uses the text to speak.
Ghana mampani a ɔwɔ hɔ sei ni na Akufo-Addo.
I don't know if you heard that, but you could hear it like say the sentence, right? Which is also like very amazing, right? Okay, that is also confirmed he heard it. So like it's very accurate. And then you can also like um it also has memory, right? So I can ask it find Nyane Ama, which is like whose sibling is Ama, and then it's supposed to give me Kwame because that's what we gave before. So I can ask find Nyane Ama. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Um, maybe it didn't get my chi like correctly, right? But I mean these are like more like experimental and you are building and then finding out these edge cases. But you can see that I mean we can ask it and I think one thing you can do is also type in English and it will still understand. So I can say, who is Jesus Christ? Right. So let's say in cases where a tree or like the sentence might not be accurate, you can also like use English, right? And then it will give you like the response, a more accurate response in that case, right? So for this one, I asked it, who is Jesus Christ, which is English. It says Yesu Christo ne Christos tum nipa chuchu Christopher. Like yeah, it gave like a more accurate answer, right? So you can also like switch languages. Over here, I can start like a new chat and then do like other languages and it just still work, right? We've also like implemented like history feature. So you can also like have access to your history once you are logged in. And then I can then move on to like this more like sub pages. So I don't know how many of you guys are developers who are like using the API currently, but this interface is to provide like a more capable interface, right? A more capable interface of like using the API. We are still like building on top of it, trying to understand what customers like you would want, and that's why we would like feedback. But now, let's say if you go to the speech recognition endpoint, you have more flexibility, such as like switching between like our API versions, right? The languages are over here. The text to speech tool, you can select the language and the speakers. And then the translation, you can, I mean, just like what we had before, right? But this one would provide more capabilities. And that's why you see this subscription key here, because eventually, like, you might have to go beyond the limits that we already have. It also has like history features like implemented. But I'm happy to now answer any questions that any other questions you might still have on the call. Yes, okay. So Shalom Adebit, I'm sorry for that. But he or she is asking, in training this model, what forms of data were used for it? So I think it's very similar to Dr. Caesar Salam's question, which was more like, how are we providing like the, I think you were asking about the child assistant capabilities. How are we like bringing this out here? So when you talk about training the model, I mean, maybe I'll need clarification about it. Are you talking about like the NLP models or like the large language model, right? So with the NLP, I think Dr. Miset can talk about it, but I basically wanted to share, or like I said, that what we are having here is more like a translation layer, right? More like let's say large language models that are popular, like from GPT-4 or 5, right? And then the rest, they are languages. I mean, they virtually support like as many languages that is on the net, right? But for the less dominant ones, like maybe the ones that we have in Africa and some of our communities, and it's not like very specified, or it's not like able to generate like very accurate because it doesn't have that niche data, right? So what is happening over here is that we are leveraging on the English more popular profound capability, and then using like the translation layers or the translation endpoints and technologies that we have, as well as the ASR and then the text to speech to sort of create some sort of wraps around these existing models. Right. So I think what we even have here is like the voice input. So like you can basically input it into voice. And I think one thing that really excites me with the work that we are doing is that it basically creates let's say limitless opportunities to like build on top of applications that you want to do, for example, or you want to build. For example, like with the endpoints that we have today, you can basically put together a great voice assistant, right? Just like how like ChatGPT, Gemini all have like these voice assistants. If you really think about combining like large language models with like the Ghana NLP technologies, you'll be able to form or build a very cohesive or like a very great voice assistant into your applications. And I think one example use case is like I think over here in the US they are using it a lot for like bank interactions on phone. I think Paul also shared from our community a guy who was building this vending machine that is able to like engage in local languages like Tree and then Akan with the user. So like it's yeah, that was one thing that excites me about it. Um, mm, um, is there any question? that you may have, or anything you want us to try out. Mm. Yeah, so if Akwesi is on the call, I think we mentioned that we will make this studio endpoint available to you maybe after the call, and then maybe we also give you opportunity for you to give feedback, right? So one thing we would like to know is maybe what kind of features do you want to see, maybe with a chat app or like with maybe for developers on this particular sub pages, or even like in general as a whole. Okay, what kind of ideas are you having, and what kind of things do you want us to like maybe focus more on? Yeah, but yeah, if there's no other question, maybe in count of three, two, one, I'll pass the call to Mix Dr. Meseth to
Thank
take.
you. Thank you, David. Hey, Charlie David, you have promoted me. Oh, I'm not a doctor. Please, I'm not a doctor. I'm not there yet at all.
Oh, I know you mentioned, I mean, still, but
Yes, I see the doctors on the call, Dr. Sisa and those guys. My hats off to
yeah,
you guys, the doctors on the call. So, but no, thank you, David. We really appreciate it. And I think from a user standpoint, one kind of thing I was thinking about was the symbols and how you've integrated it. I think it's
Mhm.
fantastic that you've made it easier for people to type to put in the extended Latin alphabets like the
Mhm.
and the O for the tree. And yeah, I was even thinking if it's possible that when someone is in the text box, so once they are focused on the text box, if they could
Mm.
maybe long press a key to switch to one of those extended alphabets without
Mm.
necessarily having to move their fingers from the keyboard to the mouse, then that
Yeah.
even makes it even more seamless. But as you've done it, I love it. It's really, and look, when I saw this interface, I was like, Charlie, we have talent. And as you can see, there's a lot of thumbs up coming. This is really good stuff, and I am particularly very proud that, we have this kind of talent, in Africa and in our community. So, yeah, thank you so much. And we are all behind you. So, yeah, we hope to see this really going forward.
Wow. Thank you, Miss Seth. I really appreciate that, and thank you all for the thumbs up and then the appreciations. So like with the first one, the first like suggestion, I think is like very valid about like being able to like directly use a keyboard or long press to sort of like form these shortcuts. We initially explored how to do that, but I think I really have to like revise and figure out how to integrate it. We saw like the buttons, there's opportunities to put in there. I think for like phone, mobile,
Ah, yes.
this
Mobile
might,
users, it's easier.
yeah,
That's right. That's right.
yeah,
That's right.
for web, you
Yeah,
might
yeah,
have to
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
do that.
right.
Thank
No,
you so much
absolutely.
for being here on the call.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, we really, we can have you back anytime when you have some updates. Yes. So yeah, with that said, let me thank the whole team from Kaya. I know not all of them are on the call, but we really appreciate their work and we are looking forward to seeing more updates from them. Yeah, with the time we have left, I want to basically take you through this thing called TC Translate that I've shared with you earlier. Let me open the page
Uh,
so we can start from there.
Hello, Mixet.
Yes.
Yes,
Akwesi.
yes. I wanted to answer a question regarding the
Okay.
the
Please
data
go
set
ahead.
that
Go
we
ahead,
use.
Akwesi, please. Mhm.
Okay, so we are going to release a data set that we used for most of our model training. So I will encourage everyone to keep an eye on the Slack channel. Once we release, we will share the link so you can also have access to the data set and play around it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. And yeah, when this is published, we'll have it. We have a space on Hugging Face. So I suppose we'll also put it all there and for those of you who are training models, you can easily plug into those data sets and make use of it. Thanks so much for that, Akwasi.
Sure.
Hmm. All right. So I would like to just take you straight to this TC Translate project, and let me just quickly give you a background of why this project. Someone reached out to me, and they said they are actually trying to they are doing insurance, basically insurance for farmers, and they realized that they have a big problem because they are supposed to communicate with these farmers via SMS, but the only language they can use is English. And this is something that they are probably not taught so much about when they were doing their business plan and everything. And now they were really in big trouble because they had to be messaging farmers, in English when they knew very well these farmers may not be very, very literate. So they were looking for solutions, and they had tried using the existing MT model. So when I talk about existing MT models, if you look at, in addition to Ghana and Kaya AI's APIs, you have the Google Translate API, you have the NLLB model. So that's NLLB is a model by Facebook, which is out there, but it's a huge model and it takes a lot of GPU. But all these free models are out there. But the issue is when they use them, none of these models could really, in all instances, translate things the way they wanted. So the example he gave me was that they were doing a translation for a word like fertilizer. And the empty models were giving them things like nro. This is like medicine, right? Whereas they wanted it to just output fertilizer, but more of transliterated, right? So when I say transliterated, you know the way we like to convert words that are still English, but we write it in a way that is more aligned with the tree phonetics, right? So you have things like tomatoes becomes in toast. You have things like even Ghana. When you write Ghana in G, you write it as say Ghana, something like that. You don't use the H because in H there in tree the silent H is not there. So they wanted to have that kind of level of control where they can actually have their own terminologies being used by the model. But this was an interesting case because, and for them, the first thing they were thinking about was to train a model. But when he explained it to me, what I was thinking was that even if you train a model, just imagine if you just sent some SMSs and you took some user feedback and you wanted to adjust because maybe some farmers felt confused by a certain word. Then you all of a sudden you have to train another model. You have to start all over again, right? But then I thought that if we could actually have a way to substitute these terminologies at the point of translation, where you are substituting them with placeholders and then reinserting them back after translation, then you could actually use an empty model that generally performs well, and then you can actually get the kind of translations you want. So that is the whole idea behind this project. Give me a moment. Let me wear my jacket. This place is getting cold. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, I'm not in Ghana, so I'm not having the heat that we normally have. Yeah. So basically, that was why I put together this code. I've been thinking about it for a while, but I just didn't have I had not come around to being able to see how do you actually implement it in a way that it can actually be useful for the community. And even as this now, I'll tell you it's not perfect. Let me say even one of the first imperfections is that it currently supports only Google Translate. Then we are using the free Google Translate API. But I know very well that we need to make it support more APIs, right? So that is if you are here and you're looking for something you can do on this particular report, that is one issue that can be worked on, where you can even have different, I'll call them recipes for different APIs. And then someone can pick and say, okay, I'm using Google Translate. I'm using Kaya AI API, I'm using even an LLM translator, and I want to use this. When I say that, then let me give a caveat. So the caveat here is that each translator may have its own placeholder rules that may work for it. I'll be honest and say one thing I really love about Google Translate, the way they've trained their models, is that their models are trained to respect structure. And let me just, I don't know how to explain that, but when I say structure, when you want to say translate things like code, if you want to translate code, maybe you have some code data sets of say Python codes, and you translate it using Facebook's NLP model, you tend to sometimes get really confusing results. Whereas Google is able to sometimes leave out some of those, the code structure, the syntax, and all of that. And it's able to figure out that, okay, let me just translate only the text without touching some of those things. But it's not perfect. But in this case, Google, if you put in anchor brackets, so anchor brackets, let me try to see if I can show you here on the repo. Anchor brackets are basically oh, it's not here. So let me just open a text box and put anchor brackets there. So basically, anchor brackets are like this. I have a very small screen, so it's probably not showing big enough. Pardon me, but yeah, essentially, you have the same symbols you use for code. If you are writing these tags, say break tag or something, for those who do HTML, if you use that with a number in there, Google Translate does not touch it. So it doesn't translate that. It doesn't strip it out or something. Some other translators will just take it out. And because of this feature, if we pass a text to Google Translate and then we replace the certain terminologies with ID placeholders, we are able to get a response that has the same ID placeholders still intact. So let's open Google Translate and let's test it out. So for example, I can say, um, this plantain is very sweet. So if I say this plantain is very sweet, Google Translate gives me the output sa plantain ye, right? And this is exactly one of the reasons why you want to use, something, this kind of project we have worked on, because as you can see, Google Translate is great, but when it comes to a word like plantain, which we really, is very common in Ghana, it doesn't translate it properly. So if you are able to replace this plantain with an ID, an ID tag like this in the anchor brackets, then you can actually translate it. And then when you are done as a post translation task, you can then insert the correct terminology for plantain that you like. You can put it back into the translation, and then you get the correct translation you want. So it can have many uses, I think, in very domain specific, business specific use cases where you are basically trying to have a lot of control. You don't want any surprises. Or maybe you have certain keywords that are very important to you. You don't mind if translation is not perfect, but you have certain keywords that you really want to make sure that they are delivered very well. You want to use something like this. And at the same time, even if you wanted to generally create data sets that are better for machine translation, you could also use this approach, even though I suppose you may have to make some modifications to the code that is already in this. And I think some of the caveats here, before I go to the notebook so we can try it out together, is that you have to be careful the kind of terminologies you are using, right? So we have a terminologies folder in the repo, and what it contains is basically CSV files. So the CSV files each represent, as you can see in their names, they have the domain, and the language. So basically, the code is going to be able to read the domain and it's going to be able to read the language. And you can specify it when you use the library, you use the package and specify that, okay, I'm working with this language or I'm working with this, domain, and it's going to pick the right terminology file. So if we look at, say, for example, this agric terms, this agriculture terms for tree. So as you can see, you have the terminology, you have the translation, you have the terminology, you have the translation. And essentially, anytime you run the package, um, it is using the Google Translate free API, but whenever there is such a word, it finds a word abattoir in the English text, it's going to replace it with the ID here, ID number one. And then when it has completed the translation, it is going to insert the control translation you have back into the translated text. So what you can see here probably is, in most cases, a lot of the text here are mostly more of entities. They are nouns, that kind of thing. And I think this is also an area where we need more testing. In my little NLP experiments, I am leaning more towards nouns and adjectives. Yeah, but some abstract nouns are also you just have to be, I think you just have to, try it. The issue becomes if you are replacing a lot. Okay, so if you write a sentence where a lot of the terminologies are in that sentence, then it loses meaning. So I think that could also be one area where you want, maybe we could have a code improvement where you could actually control how many replacements are made, especially when you are trying to use it for a general purpose. But if you are using it for very specific use cases for maybe a business or something domain, then in most cases you are looking at specific keywords that have specific meaning, and they may not need this adjustment. So yeah, I think it's important that I mentioned that as well, that, it's not everywhere that we can replace, especially if you get into the adverbs, and that kind of thing, then you are really kind of going into tricky territory, because that's where the variation comes in terms of how they are positioned and that kind of thing. So I think it's better to stick with nouns, and maybe adjectives as well. But yeah, with the verbs and the adverbs and the pronouns, the conjunctions and all the others, most times they are very, very already abundant in our natural language. So they are already very much known by the models. The models usually are able to handle them well. And so even if you don't try to use specific terms for them, it works, right? So yeah, I could also see this being used even if you have abbreviations, you may have abbreviations that you want, even you have time, right? There's time you want to replace in your text, anything basically you want to replace in your translation and have it look a certain way in the output. You could basically put it here, put it as a term, put the translation you want, even if it's not true, but it's your own version of that and you want it to be replaced, put it here and then it's going to replace. So that could be another use. Maybe you are just trying to use it for that purpose. So let me switch to the notebook and let's do a quick demo and see how it works. Um, yeah, so I've created this notebook here, which is also linked in the repo. So it can be used if you want to try. And one more thing, if you are trying to volunteer to help this project be more useful, you could see how you could add more examples to this notebook. Okay, I have a few examples here, but I think we can have more examples because essentially what we are using here is the Google Translate free API, and that translator has a lot of features. And I think if you use that in addition to this kind of terminology replacement, you can do a lot with that. So For now, basically, the way it works is you clone the repo, and then you basically install it. I've already done that. I already ran it here. So basically, you run the cell and it installs. As you can see, it pulls the code and does everything installed. So what it does is it installs the Google Translate free API. For those of you who don't know, I may have mentioned it a couple of times. The Google Translate free API is basically an unofficial client. It's an unofficial Python client, which is basically using the free web Google Translate service, and it allows us to get access to the same thing, the same way I just opened Google Translate. It allows us to basically use that for our research purposes as an API. Exactly. So it's unofficial, but we kind of use it for these purposes. And so yeah, basically it pulls that and then it wraps it around this whole kind of pre-processing and post-processing so that you can feed it a sentence. It goes into the terminology bank. It looks for the word and it replaces it. So let's run this one. So here you see the input sentence is the farmer uses an abattoir and acreage for farming. Let me first go to the Google Translate and show you, or let me just run it here and I'll go to Google Translate to see. So as you can see, after running this sentence through the package, the response we get is okuafoɔ no de aboa kumfie ne asase dodoɔ di dwuma ma hweadwuma. Okay, so at least because I know the terminologies, I know that abattoir has been replaced. So abattoir, we are using a control terminology for abattoir. We are also using a control terminology for acreage. So those have been replaced here. Now I want to take this same thing and let's go to Google Translate, right? And let's see what Google Translate gives us. Oh, sorry about that. I think yeah. Oh, I don't know what's going on here. I'm not able to copy text. Let me try again. Amos' mic is on. Let me see. That's Christian John. Okay, so let's try this Google Translate for one last time. Okay, so you see, the farmer used an abattoir and acreage for farming. Okuafoɔ no de baabi a wɔkum mmoa ne asase a ɛyɛ acre di dwuma. So as you can see, even if you don't recall exactly what we got from the other, you can see that here the acre is actually given back to you as the English version. And this is the kind of thing that, especially if you are doing something like what David just showed us, if you are using a tree, if you are using a tree trained text to speech, and you feed it words like acre, it goes really crazy, because the tree phonetics doesn't know any such thing as C and R combined. So this is why you want to do controlled terminologies for translation, because you don't want these kind of surprises, right? And that is why we normally hear this thing that people feel like LLMs cannot work for us, and even models generally cannot work for us because they feel like the output is unpredictable. So the whole idea of this project is, can we put a little bit of control and validation on these models without necessarily relying on the models themselves to do that, and not having to always train them to get a perfect, perfection, but just have some, kind of heuristics, add and to make it better through post-processing and pre-processing. And basically, yeah, so let me just also run another example I have here. Yeah, so basically this example is doing multiple terminologies. Or what does it do? Let me see. Yeah, this one gives you both translations side by side. Yeah. So here you see the direct Google translation. Okay, I followed the, I hectare di juma kia, and then it shows you basically this one shows you how it did the replacements. So you can see it says it replaced the terminologies. The farmer was actually replaced as well. So it picked it from the terminology bank as ID number 250 and then replace that. It replaced also abattoir as ID number 1 in the terminology bank, and then also acre was ID number 4 in the terminology bank. So it did all these replacements and then translated this. When it translated it in Google, Google gave this result. 250 not the 1 ne 4 did you ma 253, right? So that's what Google had to do. All Google had to do was to translate, I guess the skeleton of the sentence, and then it replaces it. I think if you do this, Google has le- better chances of doing a good job because, like I said earlier, these joiners and these texts in between, usually Google is able to handle them very well. And then if you're able to feed it good nouns, good adjectives using this kind of system, you're able to get pretty good results from it. But you have to make sure that your terminologies are very good, they are very well done, and you want to make sure you're sticking to real nouns, okay, and don't get into too many gray areas with other parts of speech. Otherwise, you will definitely break the translation. So yeah, this is basically it. I think we are already running out of time. So I'm going to look in the chat if there's anything I could maybe respond there. Let me see. All right. Uh, I'm
Sure.
not seeing anything in the chat. Okay, but if
Yeah.
you want to take the mic, go ahead, please.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to ask, like, so is there like maybe one command that you can write and then let's say is this something that we can build as like an API or like
Mm.
use as an API?
Absolutely. It can be used as an API. I think it has to have the right wrappers around it, that kind of thing. Those who are really good at it could do it. But as it is now, it 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 can run, yeah, as an API locally. So basically, I can interact with the the system via an API. I don't know if you are thinking of it in terms of being deployed where it will have endpoints, right? For people to have, okay, yeah, in that sense, no, this doesn't have that system in place. It
Okay.
doesn't have those the very good system for endpoints, but it does have a clear description of how to interact with the
Mm,
library. So if you go to the library for this project, you can actually see some from the examples. You can learn from that. Otherwise, I recommend for you to go to the actual project library. There's this thing out there called Google Translate. I even have a version of it on my own GitHub. So
okay.
basically, if you go to this library, PY Google Trans, you can
Yeah.
read more about this library and how to interact with it. The beauty is that any way this library works, you can actually use that with the that package, and it should also work because it's
Oh,
basically just using that. It's basically using this same library and
yeah.
then just doing pre-processing and post-processing for it.
Mm. Okay, nice. Because
Exactly.
yeah, as you were demonstrating, I also like saw like the use cases in the studio, honestly.
Yeah, yeah,
Very
yeah. No, us absolutely. And I'm hoping maybe we can even have, ways to try it out with, the car AI models as well. But I know that that will have to be something that goes into the training as well to make sure there are certain placeholders that can be used with the model,
okay.
so it doesn't strip them out. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I don't see any other questions. So if there are no other questions, then I guess I'm going to say thank you to all of you for making time for this session. We always love having you on the call, and if you ever have any questions about this, even this call or the project as you go into it, you can feel free to reach out, and always happy to share. So yeah, with that said, I wish you a great rest of the evening and a good weekend, and see you next time. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.